Hey, it's Luke. This video is about some features that I would love to see added in Ableton Move, and I think they'd be possible. Most of these are more like firmware type updates. Obviously, we'd love to see more connections and this and that, but realistically, there's tons that could be done with what we have already, and I'm going to go through a bunch of them. The last one is the only one that isn't really possible through just software, but I think I have a solution, so we'll look at that at the end. Now, these are functional, they're not glamorous, but they would make a huge difference when working with Ableton Move. The first one is search, and I know what you're thinking. It would be a little bit awkward to be doing this with a screen, and I agree with you, but it is possible. Like when you set up your Wi-Fi password, you're able to scroll through and choose whichever letters you want. This would be really useful for samples that you bring onto the Ableton Move. And it would also be useful once you get used to the sounds that are on there. If you're looking for something specifically, instead of having to just scroll all the way up and down, it would make it quicker to get to specific sounds. Now, the next one is random sounds, and I know what you're thinking. You can do that when we go here, we choose a new project. It'll give us 4 random sounds. But what I'm thinking is it would be really nice to take just the bass sound here and switch that randomly. A lot of the time, one of these just doesn't fit right with the other sounds, and it'd be nice to be able to just go random until you find a sound that you like for that specific track. And I could see them adding that relatively easily, maybe use one of these buttons here, if that's even possible to change what these do. But I'm really hoping they can. Otherwise, a whole bunch of these may not be as possible as we hope. Okay, another thing I'd like to see is automatic quantize during recording. So if you're just working with the pads and your beats are a little bit off, you can press shift here and press this quantize button here, and it'll move everything where it should be. But it would be nice if it could just be automatic, and as you're hitting the pads, it just quantizes everything. So on the next loop, everything's quantized, and you just keep going from there. Okay, if you're working with these drum pads a lot, you've probably used this here, the attack, hold, decay, and they help you adjust your sample. If you don't know, you can press shift. This is a little bit awkward here, the way I have the microphone, but if you press shift and this button here, which is usually the decay, it will actually give you the length so you can actually shorten the sample. But one thing we don't have is fade in and fade out. Fade in is sort of there if you use the encoder for the attack, but there's no fade out. And if you go on Ableton Live, if you're on one-shot mode, you've got these fade in and fade out. So it would be really nice to have this. A lot of the time, mostly to get rid of the click. Some samples, depending on where you cut them, will have a little click at the end, and I'm using these constantly. It would be nice to have that on Ableton Move. It should be an easy thing to add, but I don't know Ableton's code, so it might be tougher than I think. So the attack will let you have a little bit of a fade at the beginning of the sample, but we would still need something for the end. This one is specific to the drum kit. When you get your Ableton Move, it'll probably look like this, where you've got your pads here and these are empty. You can press this button here and it'll turn on the 16 pitch mode. So you can take your sound here and have it pitched up or down. It works for melodies as well, which is really nice because it lets you add to those 4 tracks that you have. You're able to build more complex melodies. But it would be nice if this could be switched over to a few different things. Like this here could be like on Ableton Push, where you can set it to control 16 different velocity levels, or even have this be an extra 16 pads. That seems like it would be more of a complicated thing because that would affect something else. But still, it would be nice if you could toggle between those 3. Now, you might have noticed I still have this little plastic thing on the screen. It's one of those things where you want to leave it there as long as possible, but it feels so good to remove it. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the video. Okay, for this next one, we're going to go to Move Manager, which is where we can do stuff with our sets, like download them from Ableton Move or upload some samples and presets to the machine. On each of these tracks, you can export as audio and delete. You can also rename them. But one thing that would be really nice to have is a setting up here where we can download them all at once in a zip file. So if you're sitting there, you make a whole bunch of beats, you could download the project files or the audio files all at once, either to load up a whole bunch of them in your project, or even just as a backup. If you want to clear out some of these, you'd be able to download them all, then go here, clear them all, start over, and you've got a blank slate to create a whole bunch of new projects. Okay, this one seems minor, but it would be so useful for me, is having an auto off. I noticed that I'll use this and then put it aside for half an hour or an hour, and then I look over and the lights are all on, and I'm thinking, oh, I should have turned it off, and the battery life went down. I keep forgetting to turn it off, so it would be nice if it timed out after a little while. Okay, I mentioned the last one isn't as much of a firmware type of thing. Actually, it's not at all. It's that the speakers in here aren't great. I heard somebody refer to it as you take your cell phone and you put it in a can and you put it in the other room. And I can't disagree. I actually thought there was something wrong with this unit when I first got it. It's not absolutely horrible. Like, you can work with it, but it would be nice if we had access to a better speaker. You can plug the output into an external system and use your studio monitors or whatever, but that requires a cable. And here's what I'm thinking. If you want to be able to adjust the quality of speaker you have, it would have been great if they had a Bluetooth output on here. You wouldn't have the same top-notch quality as plugging it in, but you'd be able to choose the type of speaker you want, something smaller or something bigger. But I was thinking you could do something like this, which is a Bluetooth transmitter. So you'd plug the transmitter here and then use whichever speaker you want. I guess you could use Bluetooth headphones as well. So that would be nice to have it a little bit more portable. So that's an option to do a quick little upgrade that wouldn't cost you very much, and it would give you some new functionality. So there we are. We'll have to see if the firmware updates are more fixing bugs and things like that, or if they add features with it. It would be great to make this machine even more fun. We'll have to see what they do with it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, before I go, I'm doing this now.